Hey, welcome back to Schmuck Farm. It's a little bit windy. Hopefully the audio will be okay on this. I want to talk about the black goat since she's had her second set of kids with us. She had a single last year, little Billy, and this year she had two little females on New Year's Day. And health-wise, she's doing fantastic. Really? We're going roping today. He just doesn't know that. But from where she was after I first got her to where she is now she doesn't even look like the same goat. So I just want to go over the basic steps that I was using basically to keep her alive until she could start recovering on her own, because the parasites that were in her body were not responding to most worm medications. I have hay set out for them, but they still stand out here and graze bare ground that they've trampled down. All the summer grasses are gone. But Donkey doesn't care. Here's the star of the video, along with her babies. As you can see, shiny slick coat, good muscle, good weight. She did tear her ear. She had one of the metal ear tags in, and she got to fighting with another goat through the fence and ripped it out. That's quite common with those metal ear tags. That's why I hate them. But here's her two little doelings for this year. As you can see, very, very healthy goats. And this is what she looked like a week after I got her. I bought her as part of a bigger herd. She had a little doeling by her side, and it died the next day. I could tell both of them were very sick, so I quarantined both of them immediately in a horse stall. And that's where this goat stayed for almost 6 months. The guy that I bought the herd from had been using the Safeguard pellets that you add to their feed, which is the worst possible thing that you can do for goats. I know Safeguard may get mad at that, but it's very, very easy to underdose because some goats are going to push others off the food. So some will get not enough medicine, some will get too much. And basically what you end up with then is parasites that don't react to that Safeguard medicine at all. So it's a waste of time to use it. If you can use it in the oral form, in the liquid form, I mean, and use it correctly, it will work on goats that have not been exposed to it. I'm keeping her and the babies separate for now. I do that for the safety of the babies because we have hawks and eagles around, and I wait until they have a little size to them. They'll go out when I'm here for about 30 minutes at a time with her. They're only 2 weeks old, and I want to keep them as isolated as possible from the other bigger goats and from the horses and from predators until they're about 4 weeks old. Donkey, you've already been in a short this morning. Do you want to be in a regular video? Yeah. Miniature donkeys have to be the best farm animals ever. They're just super cool. So I started with Safeguard, which is the one that most people will start with. She had been on Safeguard pellets in her feed and had not been getting enough dewormer. So the worms that were left in her system were basically resistant to that. Went with Sidectin next. It's a different class. It's in the ivermectin family. It did have some effect, but I had to get to the vet's office because everyone had Prohibit on back order, which is a third class of dewormer, and the vet was able to get her hands on some. And that really was what turned the corner for her. I also gave her some of this goat dewormer. It's got Rheumatel in it, which acts as a paralytic for the worms. So between the Prohibit and that, it basically cleaned her system out. Got rid of all the worms, but she was so anemic that she was still very, very sick. So I was adding Red Cell. You can buy that at Tractor Supply. That's where I got that. And she was getting Goat Drench. These two. One or the two at a time. But most importantly, if you have one that's really weak, B12. Liquid B12 made for them. You can give it to them every day. And to get this stuff in her system, I just use one of these drenching syringes, which she absolutely hates. And if she sees me come in with it, she takes off running. And when you're drenching them that much, you may get one that gets the scours. I use this at Spectagard. It's actually for hogs, but it works great on goats. And there's also goat feed that has a decox in it, which will, help you with the coccidiosis. Another thing that I did, and I would highly recommend this anytime you have a goat that's feeling bad, in addition to the B12 and the nutrient drenches, is I went and bought some alfalfa hay and had it just for her. Not pellets, but I actually bought bales of hay. I kept that in front of her, and for a short period of time she couldn't even get up, so I was having to help her get up and walk around. But the alfalfa hay is rich in protein. It's good strong hay. It's expensive hay, but when you have one that's that sick, it's worth it. Here's our other sets of babies. Two little boys in here, little boy and little girl on this side. And I will isolate them the same as the other goats. And that's one thing, if you have a goat that has an issue with worms, separate that goat, and all the waste that you get out of that stall needs to be disposed of. Don't put it in a compost pile. I put mine over here in the burn pit, and I was burning it on a regular basis. The last thing you want to do is compost that and then spread worms and eggs that are resistant to medications all over your pasture where the other goats can pick them up, because you get some medication resistant worms in your entire herd and you're going to lose a large portion of it. Probably the most important thing I could say is keep an eye on these goats, because I noticed her immediately. Obviously she was underweight, and then she dropped weight from there. And the picture that I showed in the thumbnail and in the video is her at her worst when she could barely get up. She actually had a little more weight on her when I got her here, but it didn't take long to drop because she wasn't eating and the worms were just taking everything that came into her system. I had a neighbor that lost a goat. They were going to do a transfusion on the goat because it was also anemic from parasites that would not respond to medications. But they ended up losing the goat, and they will die. Goats will die on you quick. So the most important thing you can do is pay close attention to what's going on in your herd. Since I got rid of all of the parasites that she had, I haven't had another issue. I've only had to worm 2 other goats, and that's in 2 years. So I've been pretty lucky with that, and that's mainly with controlling the waste, rotating pastures. I feed them in trays, not on the ground, and they're out in the pastures with horses and donkeys, which don't share the same parasites, which is important because the eggs can be picked up by these other animals and just pass through and die. They're not the same worms, so they don't harm the other animals. And that's an important thing, is if you're mixing your livestock in the pastures, they will give you that one benefit. So I hope that helps. One thing that I would say is make sure that you know how much your goat weighs. Prohibit is a dewormer that's in a class that you cannot overdose them. You can kill a goat if you give them too much. And with the other ones, you need to know at least how much they weigh so that you're not underdosing. Don't underdose anything. All you do there is leave some worms alive that are now resistant to it. So I'm going to get Mr. Tex cleaned up because I think we're going to rope here in about 2 or 3 hours. So till next time, thanks for watching.